Hi, this is Katie J. You're about to see a live replay from the Sassenach Book Club. We meet every Thursday over on TikTok under my username, the Sassenach Corner. We'd love to have you there. If you're not already following me, give me a follow. This live is from Thursday, January 30th, and we are discussing chapters 11 through 15 in the book Outlander. Okay. So chapter 11, Claire is, like I said, on the road. She's thinking, great, I can get back to Craignadoon, to my time, to Frank. And she's riding along with Ned, and Ned is a gossiper. He's spilling all the tea and telling her all about the Mackenzie clan. He's telling her how the rent collecting is going to work, yes. But he's also like, you want the tea about the Mackenzie clan. Let me tell you, girl. Let me tell you the tea. He tells her, yeah, this is about me and my life. And I started in Edinburgh. And yeah, I was a lawyer and all this and that. And yeah, I had a fancy office. But I want adventure. And this is what I want. And so he headed out to the Highlands where he found Jacob Mackenzie, which is Colum and Dougal's dad. And how did he find Jacob Mackenzie? At the end of a pew-pew. And, of course, he's going to give him everything he has because what else is he going to do? But he says, I'm going to accompany you. And I think that kind of threw Jacob like, okay. I thought it was funny because Ned calls Jacob a wicked red old rascal. But he says that Jamie is very much like him. So, and we don't hear that in the show. So, or not that I remember. So I thought that was really neat to hear that Jamie is a lot like Jacob. And then Ned tells Claire that he helped Jacob become laird. So I guess really like Colum and, and Jacob have to thank Ned a little bit for the position they have. Ned then kind of talks about how Colum became laird, and he kind of tells her about Colum's accident and then what happened when Jacob passed. And I'm really excited, you guys, because we got a little taste, I think, of what's going to come in Blood of My Blood, the Outlander prequel. And so Colum, I've got it here in my notes. Colum was a, quote, whole man until age 18 when he married Letitia as part of an alliance with the Camerons, and Ned arranged this. But Colum had a bad fall during a raid and his leg never healed right, which Claire notes because of his condition, it never would have healed right anyway. But they think it's just because he broke his leg, it never healed right. But Claire knows it's because of his condition. And then he fell down the stairs and broke his other leg. So, they think it's because he broke both of his legs, that's why his legs are like that. And Claire knows that he has like a medical condition, and that's why, he never had a chance. He was always going to be like that. It's just, an unfortunate circumstance that that happened to him. So he laid in his bed for a year, and then Jacob passed away. And around the same time, Brian and Ellen, who are Jamie's parents, got married. And we all know this story, right? How Brian stole Ellen away, and that caused a big stramash. And Dougal was not happy because Dougal and Colum had arranged a marriage for Ellen with the Grants. So they were big mad. But if Colum was laid up in bed, then it was probably more Dougal. So
Ned told Claire that Dougal could have been chosen as Laird, but based on how he reacted to Brian and Ellen and all that, the clan saw how he probably blew a gasket and reacted, and everyone felt that he was not best suited to be the leader. Oh yeah, Stramash was like the best part. And so, Ned explained to Claire that since Colum and Dougal stood so firm together, that a suggestion was made, and Claire noticed this. A suggestion was made, meaning Ned probably made that suggestion, right? That Dougal would be made war chief and Colum would be the laird. So Dougal would be Colum's, because Colum would never be able to lead the clan in battle and war, but Dougal could. And since the brothers were so tight-knit and they were so close and stood firm together, Dougal could do that, and Colum could lead the clan. And so Dougal was made war chief, and he could be Colum's legs and sword arm in battle. Yeah, Colum was also just way more level-headed, and I think and I can't wait to see this more in the show, in the books as well. We're seeing it a little bit right now, but Dougal in the show especially, as I said, I can't wait to see more in the books. Dougal always does what's best for Dougal. So I wonder if that played a role into it as well, because Colum does what's best for the clan as a whole. Dougal does what's best for Dougal and what Dougal wants. Dougal's like, the clan's going to do whatever I tell them to do because I want that. Dougal wants a Stewart on the throne, so the clan's going to do what I tell them to do. So they're going through and they're collecting the rents, and Claire is wondering, why did we bring Jamie? Like, sure, he's good with horses, but any of you guys are good with horses. Like, we didn't need like a professional to come along. And then she figures out why. Because, the same as the show, we get in one of his speeches in the tavern, he rips Jamie's shirt off to show Jamie's scars on his back. And he is doing this to show English cruelty and to kind of enrage the people and to get them to back the Stewarts, right? And we can see how Claire's mindset is in the books. Yes, to elicit anger, exactly, Deedle. And so Claire is even citing, you can see her Englishness come out, right? Because she calls the Jacobites, quote, supporters of the young pretender against the lawful occupant of the throne of England, George II. So you can even see how she is saying, what are they doing? Like, why are they backing the young pretender? So I thought that was interesting as well. Jamie obviously is not privy to Dougal's plan. He had no idea this was coming, and he storms out of the tavern. And, Claire confronts Dougal, who says, you told me you didn't have any Gaelic. How do you know what I was talking about? And she tells him, I'm not stupid. I pick up on a few words, and, I know that God Save King George doesn't sound like Brog Stewart, So she's basically telling him, like, I'm picking up a few things here, and I'm not dumb. I know what you're doing, and I'm not a fan of how you're collecting money for this. It's not fair that you're using your nephew and what happened to him. Oh, GH, thank you. That's so sweet. That's so kind. Thank you. But, she says this isn't right of you to use your nephew here to collect for your wants and needs, you know? So Claire overhears Jamie and Dougal arguing, right? Because Jamie's not okay with this. And she's just spying and sneaking and like, I'm just going to be a fly on the wall and nobody's going to see me. And, you know, they're arguing. He's not okay with this. And basically he tells him that. But, you know, Dougal says, I remember you giving an oath. And what's Jamie supposed to say? Like, he's stuck with them, right? Like, he can't, that's his uncle. Like, he's at their mercy, pretty much. It absolutely, Dougal's treatment of Jamie is suspicious. So Jamie is a hunter. I think that's important to know. Obviously, he knows Claire is there, right? He's aware of his surroundings at all times. He knows Claire is there. And so he's like, you can come out if you want to. I know you're there. And so she comes out and she notices him like popping his knuckles and fidgeting and stuff. And she remembers a captain from her field hospital that she worked with in the war and how he used to punch a wall when he used to get really angry. And that sort of like calmed him down a little bit. And so she tells Jamie, hit something, you're going to feel better after you do. And so he does, and he punches a cherry tree and it helps him. And so then he kind of goes through and shows off some fighting skills, and she notices that he's a lefty. And I will say, show-wise, I don't know if Sam Heughan is a lefty. If he's not, I really love that they incorporated how they kept that Jamie is a lefty. Good thing George Washington wasn't there. So they continue collecting Brents, and Dougal continues using Jamie's back to kind of like stoke the, anger for, as Deedle said, illicit anger for the English, and to gain supporters for the Stuart cause. But during a visit to a certain tavern, a man says something to Jamie, and Jamie like blows his top. He decides, I've had enough of this, and he punches him right in the stomach. And a few of this guy's friends, hi Callie, he is left-handed. Okay, well that helps things. That's good. So a few of this guy's friends or whoever, they decide to gang up on Jamie. And I love how Claire turns to Myrta and she's like, aren't you going to help him? And he's like, why? He's fine. If he needs help, he'll ask. Like, let him get his anger out. He's all right. Myrta's like, he's all right. Let's just sit back and grab your popcorn and watch. He'll be all right. So it's so funny. So Jamie, obviously, Jamie's able to fight them off. Claire doctors him up afterwards, and so matter of fact, I know he's just like, don't worry about it. Dinna fash. Myrta is the goat. So Claire doctors him up afterwards, and we get this really sweet moment between them where Jamie kind of shares about his father. I mean, it's kind of sad, right? Because Claire's like, well, your father would be proud of you. And he says that his father's passed. And Claire, kind of that classic insert foot in mouth. But she says, he would be proud of you. He tells her that, his father is the one that taught him to fight like that. Because he realized that, he said he took one look at me when he realized how big I was going to be, like my mother's side of the family. So they have this nice moment, and they're interrupted by Myrta. Sam is not left-handed. He actually asked Diana Gabaldon in an email why Jamie was left-handed. Aw. So they're interrupted by Myrta, who informs Jamie that a meeting will take place in a week, like roughly 10 days. So Claire wonders, could this be the mysterious Horrocks that they were talking about? So then we're on to chapter 12. If you guys have any thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat too. So in chapter 12, they stop at an inn, and this time Claire is given a room to herself. But she hears a noise outside her door, and she goes to investigate, and she trips over Jamie. And I love this. I see this like in the show. I don't know if like when this happens, when you are reading the parts in the book that are the same as the show, like I see it in the show. It's so funny. So she hears a noise outside her door, and she goes to investigate, trips over Jamie, and he's sleeping there, right, to keep her safe, because there's British Army downstairs, and he's trying to keep her safe because he knows that they might wander upstairs and maybe try to give Claire some company she doesn't want to give them. And he's also trying to avoid the British Army. And Claire notes also that he could avoid the British Army in the stables, but he's not. The stringy-haired man, as Claire calls him in the book. I know, I love how she refers to Myrta. That's so funny. So she tells him, you know, come sleep inside. Like, you don't have to sleep out here on the floor. He's like, I would never, like, but your reputation would be ruined. And she's just so, you know, she's so taken aback by this. But so she eventually tells him, you know, at least take my blankets off my bed. I'm not going to use them. It's totally fine. So he takes her blankets and keeps her safe. He is so innocent and sweet. He's so cute. But I love how we can already, as the reader, see how much he cares about her just by trying to keep her safe. Yes, their blossoming friendship, because she sees that, right? Like, he could have chosen the stables, but he's sleeping outside my door. It's like, yes, Claire, because he cares about you. Like, you know. So Claire goes down the next morning, and Dougal tells her that they're going to Brockton to see the garrison commander of Fort William. Now Claire's like, hold up, wait a minute. No. I thought we were going to Fort William to see the garrison commander. How am I going to get to the Stones from Brockton? I have no idea where I'm going, let alone like trying to navigate. I mean, obviously she doesn't tell Dougal this, but she's thinking in her mind, right? Like, how am I going to get to the Stones from Brockton? Plus like the Highland terrain, you know, so she's nervous, right? So they travel to the inn where the garrison commander is. And who is the stinking garrison commander? Blackjack Randall. And Claire immediately sees Frank. But she's able to kind of notice some differences in the face. But it still has to be so hard for her, right? You know. So Dougal leaves her there in the room with Blackjack. And this is a little different from the show. If anyone's seen season 1, when she gets to see, well, they're not in Brockton, are they? It's a different place. Anyway, when Dougal takes her, she's rescued by Jeremy, I can't remember his name, Foster. So in the show, she's like rescued by Jeremy Foster, right? Isn't it Jeremy Foster? Anyway, and he takes her to the guy with the claret that's always worried about the claret. Oliver, I want to say, is his name. Anyway, he takes her to him, and he's like, don't worry, we'll get you where you need to go. And then they leave, right? Because there's a stramash. And so that's when Blackjack comes in and she's left alone with him. In the book, she's just brought straight to Blackjack. So there's a little bit of difference there. Not the claret. I will admit, I like that. I like that part. Oh yes, we must protect the claret. So yes, so Dougal leaves her in this room with Blackjack. Why, Dougal? Why would you do that? So Blackjack interrogates Claire, and he's wanting to know, who are you? Why are you here? You know, let's play 20 questions. And every answer is not good enough, you know. So Claire messes up because she mentions that he's from Sussex. And he's like, wait. My parents and my tutors tried to fix that. How do you know I'm from Sussex? And so she's like, whoops. And so he's like, I'm going to test you now. You know, say something, Corporal. And of course she gets it wrong. She was close, but she was still wrong. So now he really doesn't trust her. Oh, Claire. So then he assaults her. He punches her, right? And this part made my flesh crawl. Trigger warning. If you're on a rewatch, just fast forward. I trust you are not with child, madam, because if you are, you won't be for long. Excuse me? Gross. So then he asks her, now do you have anything to say to me? And God, I love Claire. What does she say to him? She looks right up at him and she says, your wig is crooked. Oh, I love Claire. I love her so much. I know. I absolutely heard Tobias's voice as Blackjack. Absolutely. So on to chapter 13, Claire is escorted downstairs and Dougal takes one look at her and he charges upstairs to confront Blackjack, right? Okay, good. It's the same page. Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth. What? Sorry. Anyway, he goes right upstairs to confront Blackjack. I mean, honestly, what did he think was going to happen? Seriously. He was there when Jamie was, I don't know if I can say this on the live, when what happened to Jamie happened to Jamie, when what Blackjack did to Jamie, he was there and watched it happen with the whip. You know what I'm talking about. He was there. How would he leave that woman in a room alone with that man and think, yeah, that'll be fine? Anyway, so Claire is sitting there really struggling with the fact that Blackjack really looks like Frank. And she's like, I forgot for a minute that that's not my husband and I can't talk to him like that. Because, you know, that's not Frank. I just can't speak to him. So Dougal and Claire leave and he takes her to St. Ninian's Spring. And they both drink from the spring. And as soon as he sees her drink from the spring, he asks her, how well do you know Blackjack? Are you a spy for the English or the French? What's with the third degree, Dougal? But she answers his questions, honestly. So Dougal then opens up and tells Claire about Jamie and what happens to him with the, you know, what happens in season 1, not the end of season 1, not that, but, you know, what happened before he met Claire. And so he tells her how courageous Jamie was. And I'm not going to get into that because it's very like traumatic. But he talks to Claire about how Jamie got his scars on his back. And so he kind of explains to her the English justice. Yes. He suffered, so to speak. Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it, Sierra. So he explains to her how he got those scars and how cruel Blackjack was and how courageous Jamie was. And Dougal tells Claire he actually tried to pay Blackjack to not do it a second time, but Blackjack refused, obviously. And then Dougal tells her about the second time and how awful it was and how gruesome it was. And Claire says, "Why are you telling me all this? Why did you tell me all this?" And he tells her to serve as a character illustration of both, hi silly boo, of both Randall and Jamie. And so he tells her he has orders from Randall to turn over Claire for questioning. And I think it was like the following Monday. It gives a specific date. Let me see if I can find it here. Monday, the 18th of June for questioning. So he tells her that there's only one way out of it because Scots law, he says right here, I'm on page 182 if you're in the hardback or the bigger paperback. I think someone said they're the same. Scots law and English law are very similar, he said, frowning, but no the same. And an English officer cannot compel the person of a Scot unless he's firm evidence of a crime committed or grounds for serious suspicions. Even with suspicions, he could no more, even with suspicion, he could no remove a Scottish subject from clan lands without the permission of the laird concerned. Hang on. So he goes on to tell her that the only way out of it is to change her from an English woman to a Scot. Dougal was totes speaking to Ned to scheme. Absolutely, Sierra. So to do that, she must marry a Scot. Jamie. And of course, she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And I love how he's like, you could always marry Rupert. And she's like, no. But I think, she realizes she doesn't have a choice. Like, this is her only choice. So she asked Dougal, like, what made you believe me now that I'm not a spy? And he says, you drank from the spring. And he said, they call it the Liar's Spring. And if you drink from it and tell a lie, it'll burn your gizzards out. So she's like, well, okay, my gizzards are just fine, thank you. So, they go back to the inn, and she wants to speak to Jamie. Hi, Valerie. She wants to speak to Jamie because she's like, you haven't even told Jamie. Oh my gosh, you guys, I got a tickle in my throat. She's like, you haven't even told Jamie. And so she talks to Jamie, and she's like, did you know that they want us to get married? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, doesn't it bother you? Like, aren't you promised to aren't you like interested in someone else? And he's like, oh no, I'm not promised to anybody. Like, I don't have any prospects. I'm like a wanted man. And we get the line that we all love, right? She asks him, doesn't she say it's like one last thing to like scare him off pretty much? she says, I had one last try. Shawnee, hi. Oh my gosh, you guys, I might have to get a cough drop. She said, I had one last try. So she's trying to like get out of it. Doesn't it bother you that I'm not a virgin? And what does he say, guys? What does he say? We all love it. I know you're all screaming it through your phone. I know you're all screaming it. Doesn't it bother you that I'm not a virgin? And he says, well, no. So long as it doesn't bother you that I am. Reckon one of us should know what they're doing. Yes, Jamie. Don't worry, you will know what you're doing. Oh, man. Again, one of you should know. Yes. All the squeals and leg kicks. I know all of you are just screaming it through the phone. And then we're on to chapter 14. Yes, I know. And poor Claire has just been drinking and drinking and drinking. And she's really hungover. The day of her wedding, and she's really hungover. And she's still protesting this marriage. She does not want anything to do with getting married. And there's, some women that are there, and they keep coming in to try to help her get ready. And I love how the one woman is like, you didn't want to miss your own wedding, do you? And she said, yes. And then how she looks in the mirror and she says, we who are about to unalive. I'm like, oh, Claire, it's going to be okay. But, and then Ned and Myrta keep coming in to help get ready. It's just so funny. So one thing that bothered me, though, I will say, in the show that I read in the books, that I wish that I didn't like that they changed in the show. See if this sounds familiar. Suddenly the inn door opened and the sun came out in the person of James. If I was a radiant bride, the groom was positively resplendent. My mouth fell open and stayed that way. I don't like that they changed that. Why did they change that, you guys? Why did they change that? I don't like that. They should have kept that. That it was him. Because in the show, they make it that he says that to her. Suddenly the sun came out. Suddenly it was as if the sun came out. And it's just, I wish that she would have said that to him. Because she does in the book, or not, she doesn't say it to him, but she could have. Because she was thinking it. Oh, that would have been nice for him to hear that. Especially with as much as she was like fighting the marriage, I think he would have really liked to hear that. So I don't like that they changed that personally. Yeah, I don't know. I will say I don't like that change. So Jamie is in full Highlander regalia and Dougal's like, what are you doing? You're gonna be seen. And Jamie's like, I don't care. It's my wedding day. And Jamie gives Claire his mother's pearls. And oh my gosh. Oh. And then they arrive at the chapel. And Claire is like, nope. Hold up. Wait a minute. Nope. Not doing it. Not happening. It's the same place that she married Frank. What? I really did forget about that. For those that don't know, I've read this book like 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't remember that. It was the same place she married Frank. How crazy is that? So
she tells Jamie, I can't marry you. I don't even know your name. And that's when he says, it's Fraser, James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser. So they say their vows and they do their blood oath, and that's in Gaelic. And Claire's like, I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm just going to repeat the words and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, Claire is like fumbling through her vows, but, you know, she's like, Jamie got through them and I'm going to do right by him, and I'm just going to suck it up and I'm going to do it. And so she does, and she, you know, she gets it out and she does it. But on the way out of the chapel, she faints. And she, quote, comes to lying on damp leaves, my head in my new husband's lap. And then she asks him about the blood oath, and he tells her what it means, or he translates it to English. And we all know it, but I'm going to read it anyway. You are blood of my blood and bone of my bone. I give you my body that we two might be one. I give you my spirit till our life shall be done. Oh. And then chapter 15, I'm not going to talk a lot about because it got spicy up in here. It got spicy up in chapter 15. But there is a little bit we can talk about. So he asks her about Frank, and he tells her, you know, I don't want you to feel like you can't talk about him. I want to honor him. Oh, Jamie, what a man. Honestly, what a man. What a man. He tells her, you know, I know that we all need a Jamie. He tells her that he knows there's things that she can't tell him. There's things he can't tell her yet. But when they do tell each other something, they want, like, let it be the truth. So it's almost like another vow that they give between themselves, right? When you tell me something, let it be the truth. So he tells her, she asks him, why did you marry me? And he tells her, I married you to keep you safe from blackjack. He tells her, you know, that she has his name, his family, his clan, and if necessary, the protection of his body as well. Oh. They talk about his family, which, oh my gosh, his family. She's like, let's just stop because your family tree is crazy. And he tells her about how he went to France to fight with the French army, which we read about in Virgins. And he returned home, and then he was hit in the head with what you use to cut wood. And then he was sent back to France to be treated. Their connection in chapter 15 was incredible. I'm not going to lie, chapter 15 was probably my favorite so far. Just getting to see them like connect and talk. I mean, not for the spiciness. That definitely wasn't too bad. But I mean, like, their connection is just amazing. Like, watching them bond and that bond happen, like, really connect with each other is so good. So the rest of them is just, the rest of the chapter is them getting acquainted with each other, if you know what I mean. But at the end of the chapter, Claire has a nightmare, and she wakes up and she's absolutely terrified. And Jamie wakes up like, what's going on? And he's ready to attack. Like, he's ready to go. Like, what? They did get acquainted. He's ready to attack. Like, he's like, what's going on? But nothing's there. They have this moment where he asks her, like, is it me? Can you not bear me? And she says, what if I say that it is? What if I can't? And she says, or he tells her, like, you know, I'll tell Dougal you want an annulment on the grounds of non-consummation.
And, oh, that's the one thing I didn't talk about, I guess. I can't talk about that. Is after they got acquainted, they go out to get something to eat. And this is the same as the show. Silly. They, after they got acquainted, they, she goes out to, or she says she's hungry. It's the same in the show. But, she, you know, he goes to get up, and she's like, no, I'll get it. And she springs up and she opens the door, and he's like, no, don't go out there. And there's like, you know, everybody's out there. And, yeah, they all see her wrapped in the blanket, and they're like, whoa, it happened. And they're all teasing, and they're all poking jokes and laughing. And she turns around, and Jamie is just losing it. Jamie is just cracking up, and she's like, oh, you know, that part was so funny. So he says, you know, is it me? And she says, what if I said that it is? And I'm so glad no one did that on the night of my wedding. Valerie. But Claire said, what if it is? What if I said that I can't bear you? What if I, you know, what would you do? And he said, I'll tell Dougal that, you know, you want an annulment on grounds of non-consummation. And she's like, everyone saw us. Everyone knows we consummated the marriage. And he said, you know, the only people that know are me and you. And, you know, we can say it didn't happen. And so, you know, he said, I'd rather be embarrassed than wed to someone that hated me. And she said, I don't hate you. And he said, I don't hate you either. And there's many good marriages have started with less than that. And then he says the quote that we all love, another one that we all love, don't be afraid. There's the two of us now. And I think this is such an important chapter too, because she really feels for the first time so safe. She feels safe with him. She knows that he's going to keep her safe no matter what. But she also notes, why on earth does he have a weapon in his bridal bed, you know? But still, you know, she's safe with him. She knows that, even if he does need a weapon. But these were excellent chapters, weren't they? Gosh, I love these. Chapter 15 is probably my favorite so far. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on all my other socials at the Sassenach Corner. Thanks, everyone.